really like Aaron's brain. Like, he just speaks the way I need to hear it. I really love his delivery style. He is wicked smart. He's also very, very successful with that knowledge that he put to use, right? Personally sold over 2,000 transactions to date. He's the coach to some of the biggest top producers in United States and Canada in real estate. Built a downliner organization at EXP with hundreds of agents. I did have to switch my spot because he did get invited to go on a yacht with Grant Cardone.
I got invited to be on the Grant Cardone celebrity cruise that was in the Bahamas.
So he's like, go, I have to go. I'm like, okay, I'll switch my day with you so we can still have you. I think you do an amazing job, Aaron, at the whole life and soul searching and mindset thing. So at this moment, I will shut up and give you the floor.
All right, awesome. Well, I appreciate you doing so. So I want to ask you guys a question, and I want you guys to drop in the chat your answer. There's no golden star here, so whatever you say is just fine. Which year do you think was a better year to sell real estate? Was it 2024, the year that we're concluding? Or was it 2008, during the great financial kind of collapse, where 50% of everything on the market was a short sale or foreclosure, prices are going down 20, 30%? Drop in the chat, which year do you think was a better year to sell real estate? Whatever you say is just fine. 2024, 2008, 2022, 2008, 2024. So this is awesome, right? So we have a mixture, yes, of what we believe to be a better year to sell real estate. Well, statistically, we are on track to do less transactions in 2024 than we did in 2008. So the fact is, Narmeen, hopefully I'm saying that right, is that we are in a real estate transaction recession. Yeah. If you made it through this year, give yourself some claps, because you made it through the toughest time to sell real estate in 15 years. Why is that something to like reflect on? Because, I have the good fortune of speaking to agents across the country. 12 of the one-on-one coaching clients I coach do over $1 million in GCI. And there's two camps. One camp, which is a very small camp, are having a very strong year. The vast majority of everybody else is in a season of disappointment. Yeah, notice the energy in the room? This is going to be like super motivating. Yeah. Well, what's interesting about a season of disappointment is that it's very instructive and helpful. And here's why. So whether somebody has faith or not, I think it's very interesting. There's some really good stories, right, that we can learn from. And what you find is that, in the Bible, there's a lot of people that are chosen or appointed or anointed in some way. There's usually an anointing and there's an appointing, but in the middle, there's a season of disappointment. That's interesting. Why does that pattern persist, Lisa? Why is somebody anointed to do something and then they go through years of disappointment before they actually get to the appointment? A good example of this is Joseph. So Joseph is his father's favorite. Anybody have any siblings besides me? Yeah. If one of your siblings is the favorite, does that irk you a little bit? Look at all the ones. Yeah, man. Right? 100%. So his siblings felt the same way, yes? A little irked by the fact that his dad liked him the most. Yeah? So you know what they came up with? This brilliant idea, Sherry. They were out working one day and they said, you know what? We're just going to put him in a ditch and leave him to die, because we're tired of him getting all of the praise. Yes? So they do that. And then you know what they do, Christy? They're like, well, you know what? We could actually get some money for this guy. So why are we going to let him die? Let's just sell him into bondage. And they do that and they sell him into bondage. Well, here's what's interesting about Joseph. He's diligent. He's also really smart. So while he's in bondage, he actually rises to be like the top and he's like running stuff. He's also very handsome. So he's smart and handsome. So you know what happens? The queen wants a piece. She makes a pass at him. He's a righteous man. So Chris, he says, no, thank you. The queen is prideful. Feelings are hurt. So you know what she does? She says that he tried to take advantage of her. King gets wind of this, and where does Joseph end up? In jail. For something he did not do. Yes? Now, what ends up happening is He's also, again, diligent. He's smart. He ends up running the whole jail. Yeah. And there's somebody that he makes friends with in jail, and he gets out, and he's like, hey, remember me when you get out. Does he remember him? No. And he stays there. Yes? But then the king, years later, yes? Years later, he has a problem. He has this dream, and he can't interpret it. And he goes to all of his, people in his court. Can you interpret this? All of his wizards and his, people. And none of them can interpret it. But the guy remembers, oh, yeah, there was this guy, Joseph, and he can interpret dreams. King brings him in front of him. Joseph interprets his dream. And do you know what the king does? He takes off his ring, puts it on his hand, gives him his cloak, and says, go rule Egypt. So he went from being sold into slavery, being in jail for something he didn't do, to ruling. Yeah? So why is that applicable right now? Because in a season of disappointment, one of my seasons of disappointment came in 2007. So my first year selling real estate, I made a whopping $13,000, guys. Anybody know what that's like? Yeah. Will anybody put you on a panel, Tony, to talk about specifically how you did that? Will people pay you to coach them, Christy, and say, hey, how exactly did you make below the poverty line? How did you do that? The reason was I didn't have access to the right information. People were telling me to put my name tag on my shirt and go smile at people at the grocery store. Yeah. They would tell me to sit in open houses and wait for people to show up, Renee. They started telling me to farm, Tony. I'm like, I'm not in the agriculture business. What are we talking about here? Okay. So I didn't make any money. But then I did what I've done, and many of you have done in this call, is I got access to a guide. Somebody who could give me access to the truth, yes? Which is that this is a sales business. No different than selling books door to door, knives door to door, subscriptions over the phone. And they told me what I should be stacking time on top of. And then, miraculously, that next year, the first 3 months, I did 15 transactions on track to do 60 deals. That's better, yes? While I'm sitting in a room like this, I'm prospecting, making outbound calls. I get a phone call in April of 2007. Anybody besides me ever know something's wrong before you actually know it's wrong? Where do you feel that? I felt it in my stomach, yeah? Because I look down and it's my dad calling me. Now, it's not weird that my dad be calling me. It's weird that he'd be calling me at 8:30 in the morning because we don't normally talk at that time. So I did what I usually never do, is I stopped prospecting and I picked up the phone. And the voice on the other end of the phone, guys, confirmed that feeling that I felt in my stomach. Because he was kind of hyperventilating. And what he was able to eke out was that my mom had just had a brain bleed. She was being rushed into emergency surgery, a craniectomy. And he's like, yeah, there's a 50-50 shot she's going to make it. So whatever you're doing right now, I suggest that you stop and come home right now. So what I did is within a week, I shut down my entire business in Gainesville, Florida, gave away all the listings, all the pendings, and I moved back home. Started over from scratch. And then do you know what happened? The 2008 financial collapse. Yeah! That's fantastic, right? Not really what I was expecting getting into this real estate thing, yes? Massive, kind of season of disappointment. So I had to start over from scratch, right? And my experience has been, guys, is that it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to what happens to you that defines you. So what I want everybody on this call to realize is, while at that time, you know what I would like to say happened, Chris? I was like, well, Lindsay, this is a season of disappointment. And I'm just going to go through this with grace. That is not what happened. I was pretty angry and mad. Yeah? Anybody besides me ever been angry and mad when you're going through a season of disappointment? Sherry's like, yep, hallelujah, amen. Yep. Okay. But now, upon reflection, do you guys realize I would not be on this call with you without that season of disappointment? It turned me into somebody who could list 100 homes a year. Okay. A couple things happened. When I moved, I lived in a sleepy hollow town of Gainesville, Florida. Okay. Other than the university, it's cow pastures. There's nothing there. I moved to Miami, Sherry, and Fort Lauderdale, where there's full of sharks. Yes. I had to become razor sharp at skills. Yeah. It also caused me to master expired listings. I did 100 transactions one year, 75 were expireds. Yep. That gets some eyebrows moving, Christy. That's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. It also caused me to master price reductions. You know, I'm on coaching calls with agents these days and they're freak out because they have to ask for one price reduction because they've never had to do it before. Christy, I was having to get 10 price reductions a month just to move inventory. That means 20 price reduction conversations. Anybody besides me notice that a seller never says, well, you know what, Jennifer, you've been trying really hard. Let's just go ahead and lower the price by 50 grand. Is that what they say? No. They want to fight with you. You say, can you put it in the Wall Street Journal, Anna? What are you doing to market my house, right? All that. So imagine having 20 of those conversations per month, every month. Do you think you'd get really good at that? Yes. The next thing that happened is it caused me to get really good at systems, because what started to happen as the marketplace is retreating and everybody's telling themselves a story, which you guys just spoke to Renee, and he talks about frames and filling gaps. Yes. So what was the frame everybody was telling themselves in 2008? This is terrible. Yeah. The frame I was telling myself is, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Everybody's scared. This is great. So check this out. When I moved, right, 2007, 17 deals. Next year, 50. Next year, 75. Next year, 89. Next year, 100. And remember, with this anointing, appointing in the season of disappointment, do you know why it exists? It exists because in the season of disappointment, you create the character. So that way, when you get to your appointment, you will never leave. You can stay there. I never did less than 100 transactions a year for 10 years after that. And I did 200 deals a year twice. So while I may be sitting here in this season of kind of disappointment, there's a frame that I can tell myself, yes? So one frame that I can tell myself is what? Drop in the chat what frame you could tell yourself about 2024. Election year. Yeah, that's good. It's time to launch. It was bad for everyone. Don't worry about it. Thank you, Liz. I just moved into the area. It's a stepping stone. Yeah. These are interesting. So that's one frame that you can tell yourself. You know what another frame is? Man, this is an opportunity for me to get faster, quicker, stronger, and more adaptable. What do I mean by adaptable? Well, money has an addictive quality, and because of it, we get addicted to the way that we receive it. What was working for Sherry in 2022 with a high degree of probability isn't working as well in 2024. But because I'm addicted to the way that I receive it, what do I keep doing? Going back to the same thing. And what ends up happening is I'm not adapting. Yes? Listen, you know what Darwin says? It's not the fastest, not the quickest, not the strongest, not the prettiest, not the ones who have the most followers on Instagram. It's the ones that are the most adaptable to change. We can begin with that frame. That's the frame that we're going to use going into 2025, because what I know in 2025 to be true with a high degree of probability, guys, is it's going to be about the same. Do you know the last time we saw a drop from this magnitude? So 7 million to like 3.8 million in volume. That's what's true. The last time there was that big of a drop. Do you know how long it took to get to the previous high, Anna? A decade. 10 years. Of about the same. My grandpa taught me something a long time ago. You know what he said to me? Hope is a beautiful word. It is a piss poor business strategy. Ask yourself a question. Jen, have you been hoping? Oh, I just hope rates come down. I hope it gets better. I hope something changes. Yeah? Yeah. Hoping, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful word. I love the word, but it's not a great business strategy. So the frame that we can use is I think you need an accurate assessment of reality in order to produce a good outcome. You have to see what's true, Alejandra. So in other words, what would happen if, let's say I said to everybody on this call, like, we're going to go out in negative 14-degree weather and we're going to go swimming and we're going to think positive thoughts. What's going to happen? We're going to die of hypothermia. That's what's going to happen. So some people, when I give them an accurate assessment of reality, you know what they say to me? They stand firmly like this and they go, well, you're just being negative. I'm like, bro, that's immature. I need to see what's true so then I can make decisions in accordance with what's true and get what I want. So with that, I want to give you some tactical information. So if we can expect that 2025, maybe we have 10% more transactions. Let's put this at like 4 million, which is not a huge bump. Okay. So it's about the same. So tactically, what do I need to be doing? How do I need to be adapting, Sherry? Not hoping, adapting. Well, let's think about this logically. If the amount of people that are transacting has dropped dramatically, can we all agree on that? Yes or yes? That means there's less what? Opportunities. Which means, therefore, if there is opportunities, there's more people chasing them, which means you're competing more. Yes? So wouldn't it logically make sense that I need to get razor sharp on what to say and how to say it? Let me ask everybody on this question by a show of hands. How many people role play every day? That's fascinating to me because everybody else seems to be independently wealthy. Isn't that going against what's true? Isn't that saying to myself, hey, I can go swim in a 14-degree weather and think happy thoughts and I'm going to not get hypothermia? 100%. I need to have razor sharp skills. You know what I realize, guys? I'm going to say something to you and I want everybody to really hear me, okay? The money's not in the service, it's in the selling of the service. The money's not in the service, it's in the selling of the service. I'll prove my point. Do we all have a license to perform the same services? Do we all make the same amount of money? Why not? Some people know how to sell the service better than others. Yes? So Jen, it would logically make sense that I spend a lot of time learning how to sell the service if you want to make money. Yeah? You know, people telling me like, I love houses. I'm like, that's disgusting. You know how many houses I've been in where I had to burn my suit because it was like a cat farm? Or they're like, I love people. I'm like, you have not dealt with enough people. When I realized that the money wasn't in the service, it was in the selling of the service. Remember, in that season of disappointment, I moved to Florida and Miami, and there's all these competitors. I started role playing twice a day, 6 days a week. I did that for 3 years in a row. Because I don't know if you guys realize this, there's no security in this business. There's only opportunities, Lindsay. And you know what I never wanted to say, Narmeen, to my wife, Carla? Hey, you know what? We can't send the kids to private school because they said to me, your commission's too high. And I didn't know what to say. I verbally vomited and I left and they listed with somebody else. Or they told me, Anna, I want to think about it. And I walked out and I'm like, well, they had a puppy and I had a puppy. I think we connected. And then Aaron went in and he listed the property. As Jim Rohn would say, these are called the facts. It's the way it is. Yeah. So if I am, what I would propose 2025 as a roadmap, make sure you are working on your skills every single day. There's less opportunities, more competition. You're competing more on listing presentations. Yes. People have more choices and options, do they not? So how can I be possibly hallucinating that I'm going to sell with personality? Everybody look at me very closely. You are not that cool. And you're also not that cute. Let's just go on that. Let's go on that assumption. Second thing is better tools. So let's think about this. Because what we do in this business doesn't change. How we do it and how much of it we do is what changes based on environments. Yeah? If we are in an environment where there's a lot less transactions, what does that mean for the amount of people that I'm going to have to speak to in order to find the people that are going to do something? Look at Renee. It's going to go up. Yes? So guess what, Allison? If you were making 10 contacts or not even calling anybody 2 years ago and making money and thinking you're hot stuff, that is not working today, team. If that's logical, I'm going to have to speak to more people, right? To find people. Because did you guys know that 90% of everybody who has a mortgage right now has an interest rate less than 6%? So that means I got to talk to way more people to find the people that are ready to do something. Do you know the amazing, intricate things we do, Jennifer, to avoid actually talking to people? It's fantastically amazing. Okay. It's called creative avoidance behavior. Yeah. I remember somebody well, you got to build a brand. I gave a talk at the Association of Hispanic Realtors, and this lady was like, oh, you got to build a brand. And I'm like, well, a couple things. She was like a model. And I wanted to raise my hand and say, hey, can I ask you a question? Yeah. How many people in this audience look like you? Oh, that's right. None. What's the probability that anybody's going to get a TV show like you? Oh, that's right. 0. So everything you're saying to people is not going to actually help them. Yes? So better tools. Do you know that the best tools out there make 7 to 8 contacts an hour? What if I told you that there were tools where you can make 30 to 40 contacts an hour? Is that a superior tool? 100%. Write this down. It's called the Enzo Dialer. I'll drop a link in the chat. Enzo Dialer. One of my coaching clients, his name is Angel Garcia. He built it. He did $14 million in wholesale in 2022. He built out a telemarketing team, and then he built software. This is the software. Makes 40 to 50 contacts an hour. I'm wondering, think about that. Let's do math on that, because this is always, it's just a numbers game, right? So if you're making 8 contacts an hour and you're talking to people for 3 hours a day, so let's say it's 20 contacts a day times 5, you're making 100 contacts. That's 400 contacts a month. Yes? If you're making 40 contacts an hour, Bridget, you can do in 1 week that it would normally take you a month to do. Is that superior? Yes. People are like, well, it costs a little bit of money. I'm like, it's going to cost you more money to sit on your hands. So a superior tool. I need better tools. And that would be one that I would propose and recommend. The next thing, niches. What do I mean by that? If 90% of everybody who owns a home has a mortgage or interest rate less than 6%, who's actually selling? Drop in the chat who's actually selling. Gogo says they have to. Yep. People have to move, like relocating for job, divorce. There you go. Now we're cooking. Oh, yeah. Now we're getting the ones I like. Okay. So I call these life events. Yeah. Aging out. Yep. Life events. Life events are things like death, divorce, job relocations, moving to assisted living facility. Yeah. Retirement. Those are the only people that are going to do it. Because you guys will shop on Amazon for 3 hours to save $100. Do you really think somebody's going to give up their 3% mortgage rate because Sherry calls them and has a lot of enthusiasm? The answer is no. Yeah. One that's near and dear to my heart is probate. I live in heaven's waiting room. We have the largest elderly population in the country in Florida. What's the second largest cohort behind millennials? Millennials the biggest cohort in the United States. What's the second cohort? Drop it in the chat.
What's a cohort?
Cohort is like a group of people. Here, Jennifer said it. Boomers. Yep, you're right. 100%. It's boomers. Hey, Narmeen, do you know what the average age of a boomer is? 65 or older. So let me ask you a question. What's the probability that this lead source is going to continue to be a strong lead source for the next 10, 20 years? Oh, super high. That's right. Did you know that 65% of these homes statistically are free and clear, Alejandra? Because people lived in them for 20 or 30 years. Yeah. And did you know that if they're super motivated, how motivated are they? Through the roof. If they, you know what I mean? Through the roof. So I like that particular source because I think it's great. It became 50% of my business because here's what happened. Sherry, listen to me, adaptability. I did 75 deals one year, 100 were expireds. Guess what I was thinking? I'm the man. As my son would say, I am him. Okay. But then you know what happened, Jen? Sounds like you have young teenagers in your life, so you know that him stuff. What ended up happening is I read something that said, if you only have one stream of business, Allison, do you know what you don't have? An actual business. And what happens when the marketplace improves, Bridget? What happens to expireds? They shrink. Yeah. So for 90 days, I banged my head against the wall. And I realized that there was not enough leads in order for me to continue to grow from the lead source that I was using. Yes? But that became completely unacceptable to me. Anybody besides me ever got into a place in a professional or a personal context where you say this, whatever this is unacceptable to me? I don't know what the way is, but I'm going to either find the way or make the way. Yes? Well, it was unacceptable to me to do less. So what I did is I got access to some guides who could teach me probate. And over the course of time, I stopped calling expireds and raised the probate. And do you know what ended up happening? It became 50% of our business. I went from 100 deals to 200 deals. All because if I was willing to what? Change my mind. Be unemotional about business. You know how many guys are emotional about your business? Like you're emotional about where you get leads from. Why do you do that? I'm not emotional about any of it. Just tell me where the deals are. Yeah? So I can figure it out. Okay. And what I did is I actually, after doing this, I put it into a course teaching people specifically where to get the leads, where to get the contact information, what to say and how to say it, right? How to overcome objections, and how to list these properties. I taught it to my guy, Heath. He was a part-time agent, full-time cop. First calendar year in business as a part-time agent, did 21 transactions, 20 of them were probates. Part-time, guys. I know that this works. Million trillion %. So niches, the riches are in the niches. Get a niche that you can progressively, and I'm going to drop it in the chat. You can progressively and intentionally and purposely go after it because it's there to be had. Fourth thing I would suggest to you, 20% of all sales in 2024. Does anybody have any idea what 20% of all sales were in 2024? New construction, Lisa. Why is that? Well, let's think about that together as a team. The median price of a new construction home is the same price as a resale. So you get a new product that's newer for the same price. Yeah? You know what else is happening? On average, those transactions have 5% concession, so you can buy down the rate. So essentially, you get a new property for less money because the cost of money is less. Yeah? So what's the probability that that'll persist in 2025? Pretty high, would you say? So as such, logically, if I want to do more deals, would it make sense if you're in an area where there's new construction to start paying attention to new construction? The answer is emphatically yes. Period. End of story. Now, what'll happen is when, see, here's what's interesting. When we're faced with doing something different, what do we normally do when we're faced with changing? It's okay. Like, just drop it in the chat or somebody unmute yourself. Like, what do we normally do? Yeah, we push back, we fight about it, blah, blah.
Change is scary to most.
Yeah, it's scary. I don't know if I'm going to do it. You know what I hear when I hear that? I am stubborn and I don't want to learn something new, and I'm okay with making less money. That's what I hear when I hear that. I talk to people all the time about media. They're like, well, I'm not the type of person. I'm like, well, here's what I'm hearing. I'm not the type of person. I like to make a lot of money. Yeah? So there's two ways you can go after new construction. Here's the first. Do you know that when small builders are building projects, they pull permits? Do you know that's public information? Some of them, do they have in-house? Yes. Other ones, are they looking for listing agents? Yep. My partner, Jose, one of the agents in the organization, he did that, pulled a list. He took 80 listings from one seller. Second, you can position yourself as a guide to help people to buy new construction. So I have a one-on-one client of mine in Miami. He's in Homestead where there's some new construction. So we were on a call 4 or 5 months ago. I said, hey, bro, you should do a webinar. He said, what do you mean? I said, go in your database, send the following text to everybody. I'm doing a webinar on how to buy a new home, a brand new home with a less than 5% interest rate. I'd love for you to attend. And he dropped an Eventbrite link. Sherry, he had 40 people show up. From that one call, somebody bought a new construction home for $750,000. Let me ask you a question. Is that in alignment with the world that we live in today? Do you guys attend webinars regularly like this? Yes. So wouldn't it logically make sense to do something like that? Yes. You guys tracking? Okay. So, and then the last thing that's working really well is the following. Because again, we're dealing with the context of the market. I need an accurate assessment of reality in order to produce a good outcome. If we can expect that we're going to have about 4 million transactions, about the same, where are the deals? How can I grow? Yeah. Because a flat line eventually goes backwards, guys. You know what the dirty, nasty word in business is? Maintain. If you ever hear somebody say, I want to maintain, politely step away from them. Because you know what maintaining, you know what a flat line does, Alejandra? It eventually goes backwards. Period. So we always need to be in growth mode. Yeah. So if there's going to be about the same, what can we tactically do? Skill development, role play every single day. Setting appointments and listing presentations, because you guys are competing on listing presentations more and more and more. Yes. And there's all these different options, and there's all these different commission structures and all these different things. If you're not razor sharp, guys, you're going to get beat more often than not. And if you're depending on your personality, again, you're not that cool. Number 2, better tools. Getting access to something that can make 30, 40 contacts a day, that's a superior tool. And it goes in alignment with the fact that if I need to talk to more people and I can do that in less time, it makes sense to do it. The third is niches. Probate is my favorite. Fourth, new construction. It's 20% of all sales. I gave you all the reasons why it's a great place to be. The last one is the following. So who wants to tell me, drop in the chat, who is the distressed seller of 2008? Some of you on this call maybe weren't even selling real estate at that time. But who was the distressed seller in 2008? Upside down, builders, Adjustable mortgages. Yeah. Okay. So essentially, as a cohort, we all collectively hallucinated as a nation that real estate always goes up in value by double digits. There's this amazing emotion for humans. It's greed, and it causes us to do some some things that really aren't rational or practical. Yeah. So people took out mortgages that were exotic. You know, I bought a house in 2006 where I told them I made $100,000 and they didn't even check. Imagine people sitting around Sherry be like, yeah, this is going to work out well. All of these people bought properties, assuming, and Renee talked to you about, assumption, right? Filling gaps, that this is always going to be the case. Marketplace corrected. They didn't have the financial wherewithal to maintain properties. A lot of people put them on in droves. When supply goes up, demand goes down. What happens to prices? It comes down rapidly. Who is the distressed seller of 2024? Drop in the chat. Who's a distressed seller of 2024? 100% financing. Oh, that's from before. Everyone, Tony says. Who else? Who's a distressed seller of 2024? Someone who bought at the top of the market, someone small interest rate. Okay, here's a distressed seller. Guys, we've gone through 4 years of pretty aggressive inflation. Yes? I brought my kids to get smoothies the other day, Jen. It was $50. You're like, how did that happen, bro? Right? Anybody notice you go out to dinner now, it's $100, period. At like Chipotle. Like, how's that even possible? Yeah? So they can lie to you all you want that there's no inflation. Guys, yes. I would say probably 25% inflation over the last 4 years. Yeah? Okay. So 4 years of aggressive inflation.
But I'm going to stop you right there for a second because I Googled this yesterday because I was the same thing. I'm like, inflation is not freaking. You know what Google says inflation is?
Yeah.
2.34%. I'm like, bullshit. Like, that's illegal. Who put that out there to Google so the rest of the world can believe that?
Well, here's what is
by
interesting.
the man. So
but
come on, that is such a bullshit that an idiot would know that from a mile. Like just as you said, my one son last night ordered Taco Bell by himself, $37.
Hey guys, and that's Taco Bell.
He got like 2 tacos. Tacos used to be $1.99.
Yeah, so here's what I'm aware of, and this is a little bit of a digression, but we have to remember that the metric that they use to calculate inflation, it leaves out a couple things that are actually cost a lot of money, right? Which is like energy and housing and stuff. But the question is, why would they do that? Well, when you have millions of people that are on Social Security that it's tied to inflation, I don't want that number to be very high because I'm going to have to fork out a ton of money. So they have an incentive to kind of make it seem less. But we know practically, to Gogo's point, when her son orders Taco Bell and it's $37 and it's Taco Bell, yeah, there's been crazy inflation. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
it's Social Security. It's the people with fixed income that's been hurt the most. My mom's on Social Security. She has to choose between, am I going to get toilet paper or bread? So
agreed.
I supplement, but it's huge.
It's huge. So we have direct experience that, yeah, this is real. So what we're saying is like, okay, in the last 4 years, aggressive inflation. We also have record numbers of credit card debt, record numbers of car debt, and record numbers of educational debt. So do you know who the distressed seller of 2024 is? People that just can't pay their bills. So for that reason, do you know what's working really well? A cash offer program, Sherry. Yep. See, I knew this. I've known this for the last year, Gogo, because Jose, my business partner, he's been doing it for a year and he's crushing it. And I knew it was working, but now I know why. It's just data. Yeah. So there's different companies there's 2 ways that you can do kind of cash offer programs, right? One is there's companies that are like PPL, pay per lead, and they find people that raise their hand and say, Bridget, I want a cash offer. You have a conversation with them. For agents, this is a mental issue because you know how we've been trained? I can get you more money, let's list it.
Yes.
And because of that, we actually created a whole industry called wholesale. Yeah? Where all those guys shouldn't be making money, Jen, just so you know. And consumers would prefer to work with you because they trust you more. But you know what our answer is? If it's not direct listing, we're like, no. Yeah? So it's a mental shift. But think about this. All of these big platforms, whether it's Zillow, Redfin, all these platforms, do you know what they all have? Cash offer programs.
Gosh.
Why do they have those programs? Here's why. 5% of the time, Narmeen, they know that you'll accept the cash offer, maybe less. The other 95% of the time, they have seller leads that they can sell to you for 35%. And you know what you say? Yeah, for 35%, which is insane. That you're willing to spend $5,000 on a lead, Sherry, which is crazy. Because you know what you're thinking is, well, I made some money. Yeah, well, that's why Zillow gets billions of dollars, because you think that way. So instead, you can do one of these pay per lead, and you can create your own lead cash offer program. Yeah. And then what happens? You can talk to them, you pre-qualify them, see if they want a cash offer. Most of them don't. If they do, guess what you could do, guys? Buy it. Or wholesale it. Do you know Jose made a $110,000 assignment fee last month?
Very cool.
Wake up, team. It's right there. It's right in front of us. If these huge platforms are doing this as a lead gen mechanism, that's why they're doing it. Do you understand that? They're doing it to generate leads because they are in the lead providing business. Yes? Zillow's main source of income is what? Selling you leads. So wouldn't it logically make sense to create those leads for myself? But Anwin, I got to spend money. Yes, grow up. That's business. Yeah. Another way you could do the lead, the cash offer program is, I met a guy at EXPCon. He just came over. He spends a bunch of money, but he sends people checks in the mail. Like a cash offer check. Call me. Do you know he does 30 to 40 deals a month from that? Why? Because of what I just told you. There are lots of people who can't pay their bills. So he's just being very intentional and purposeful. You know what his goal is? His last resort is listing it. It's the last thing he wants to do. He'll either wholesale it, buy it and flip it, hotel it, like, I don't know, novations, all these different things. I believe, guys, the agents of the future will understand creative. Because when I go to, I've been on Pace Morby's platform a few times, and I went to his summit, and he's super kind. He always calls me out and has me stand up, so people come up to me afterwards, and all the agents come up to me, and they're like, I'm like, yeah, what do you do when people want cash offers? They're like, nothing. And then the wholesalers come up to me, and they're like, yeah, we do like 20 deals a month. I'm like, good for you, man. I'm like, how many offers do you make a month? Like 250, 300? They're like, yeah. I'm like, how many listings are in there? They're like, probably 10. I'm like, what do you do with them? Nothing. To kind of summarize that, we'd open up for some questions or concerns. I know you guys have been on this call for a while, so I appreciate your attention. You spent time with Renee, so I want to be respectful of your time. If you're in a season of disappointment, you have the ability to frame it. You can frame it as like, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, I'm mad, or you can frame it like, yo, this is preparing me. This is an opportunity for me to create character. Do you know the Greek word for character actually means? It means a chisel. So what you're actually doing is you're taking a piece of clay, and what are you doing? You are chiseling a statue. So it's creating the character in me, so that way when I get to my appointment, my 50 deals, my 100 deals a year, whatever it is, I can stay there, independent of market conditions. Yeah. And then it feels like a gift, doesn't it? Like, man, I'm super appreciative I have this opportunity. To recap what we're talking about in terms of tactically what you can be doing for 2025, skill development, guys. To imagine you cannot role play every day and get by on your personality is hallucinatory. It's not true, guys. There's less opportunities.
You know what I learned today blew my mind on the Team GoGo call 2 hours ago? You can role play with ChatGPT, guys. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm. I'm actually, GoGo, what's interesting, I'm actually building one with all of my scripts where people can role play with me.
That's amazing. Like, you can literally, as soon as Aaron has it, reach out to him, right? Get it? But right now, you can literally have a full-blown conversation with ChatGPT and role play with it. It blows my mind. I was like, where has this been my whole life? Right? I didn't mean to interrupt, but it blew my mind today, 2 hours ago.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And then I think, guys, like, I think what's also true is that, like, I have a role play group, but like, you play to the level that you practice. Did you know Serena, when she was at the top of her game, do you know who she practiced with? Men. Now, not that I don't mean that in any sexist way, but I think we would all agree she's probably not going to find a woman that's going to hit harder than a man. Yes? You play to the level that you practice. Most of you guys role play with people that are at your level or below. You know why? Because it makes you feel better. When I was doing 50 deals a year, I was role playing with people doing 200. Like, if you're not shaking in your boots when you get on a call with somebody, you're not role playing with the right people. It's the only way you're going to get better. Yeah. So I need to, like, For setting appointments and pre-qualifying. I see you, Lisa, and then I'll get to that question. For setting appointments, pre-qualification, the listing presentation, all of that. I need to get razor sharp. 2, better tools, so I can make more contacts. 3, the riches are in the niches. I love probate, guys, for all the reasons I just described to you. I dropped the link to the course there. 4 is new construction. 20% of all sales, give you different ways that you can approach that. And 5 is the cash offer program. Guys, if you do that, okay. I got off a call with a one-on-one client in New Hampshire today. She did 20 million last year. She did 35 million this year. Why? She's going with data.
And the cash offer program, if you don't have your own cash to buy that property, is there ways to work with investors and get paid like a finder's fee or something like that?
2 ways to do that. One is Jose has, if you think about it like acquisitions and dispositions, you would be the acquisition, right? Because you're speaking to them and tying it up. But there are hedge funds that do disposition. So what Jose does is there's a hedge fund. So when he ties it up, Coco, what he does is he'll call the hedge fund and be like, yo, I got under contract at 360. What do you guys want to do? They say, yo, we'll do 385. Great. He'll wrap it up. He'll take that $25,000 and move on.
Wholesaling.
That's right. He wholesales.
You know what's interesting is,
and
I'm sorry, I just want to, I've been in this business, I don't know, since like 96. And so I've seen all the cycles. And what you're speaking to, it's interesting to me because when you asked who's the seller in 2024, when I've actually been in the business since 89, and it was my first, recession, but I couldn't even answer it because I'm like, wait a minute, even people downsizing, they're like, shit, it'll cost me more because housing values have gone up so much and rates have gone up. So even though they want smaller size, it would hurt them financially. So, but what you're saying as you're talking to agents saying you need to be creative, we're going back to the ways that worked with the wholesaling, with the flipping, with the cash offers. And it's kind of mind blowing to me. It's comfortable to me because I know all of those. I mean, sending cash checks in the mail, I get them all the time personally. And that's, something that people have been doing forever. And it's kind of refreshing to hear that it's working. And I just appreciate you saying focus on drilling down in these deals because they're working. Because I think that's such an old trick. But it's like, oh, it's working.
And also, everyone.
Yeah, and to your point, Bridget, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go.
Yeah,
to your point, Bridget, it's a perfect example of like this awareness of not getting emotional about business. So it's an emotion, like, oh, that's old. It's like, nah, dude, Jose's going to do 2 million in volume this year, 2 million in GCI, like in income. It's not like, who cares if it's an old trick? Like, it's working.
Yeah, it's working. It's working again. And it probably always was working, but now it's time to go back to that. And really for agents to be the wholesaler, because I've always found like at times I've known so much about real estate. It stopped me from being the developer wholesaler. I've got all the flippers. I've represented a ton of them, but I felt like I've had too much knowledge to put myself in that investor position and put myself as the middleman. But so to all the agents out there, get with someone who can help you, like Aaron here, and be that middleman. That's what GoGo's teaching us. Like, you earn the wealth. Don't just represent the flipper. You mail the checks.
Exactly. And then check this out. Like, here's the mental shift. So like when Jose's going on appointments, he'll bring a listing presentation, he'll bring his own contract, and he'll bring a contract from Open Door because you get 1% if they accept your offer. He doesn't care which one you accept. Now, what I need you to understand, whoever adds more value wins, guys. If your only value is I can put an MLS, no, you're not going to win. Yeah? If my value is, yo, we have multiple different options. Whatever you decide, I'll support you 100%, just so we're clear. The one is we can put it on the open market. I know you indicated because you're a probate, you don't have capital. I can lend you the capital and you can use our construction company and we'll get it ready and we won't charge you money for lending you the money and then we'll sell it and we'll get more money. The second option is I can make you a cash offer. Now, if you do that, you probably get a little bit less on the open market, but you don't have to do anything. We'll take it exactly the way it is, as it is. The third offer is this other option. We could do sub 2, like multiple different options. The problem is the biggest kind of trainers in our industry have been exceptionally myopic. They talk about the 4 horsemen: expireds, cancels, for sale by owners, just listed, just sold. Yes? The problem with that is those are red oceans, guys. Red oceans have lots of sharks in the water and lots of blood in the water. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a great white. I can push into a red ocean and get my unfair share. Yeah. But I would much prefer to swim in a blue ocean where there's not that many sharks and not that much blood in the water. So I believe, listen to me very carefully. I believe the agent of the future will understand this. They will do what these platforms are doing, because if it's good for the platforms, it should be good for who? Me. Because if you don't do this, Jennifer, do you know who you become beholden to? Them. Now, my need for independence is very high. My need for autonomy is very high. That's not acceptable to me. And if you figure this out, you can provide more options.
When I got into the industry, it made no sense to me that you would buy Zillow leads. Anybody in their right mind would do it, right? I was like, let me get this straight. It's my listing. I worked really freaking hard to get it. The only reason you even have access to it because some idiot on the board level didn't understand what they did when they gave you direct IDX for the rest of our lives. And now you're going to take the leads off of my listing, and sell it back to me.
That's right.
And
So,
most of it's like, what a great idea. I'm like, no. How about you figure out how to get your own listings or get the leads off of your own listings and keep them and get 100% of your commission? How about you learn to market it so then you don't need Zillow to market it for you to buy back the leads on your own listing?
Yeah, Zillow took the power away from the agent. We used to have the power, the knowledge, the info. Now, because, Redfin and Realtor.com and Zillow is actually better than MLS, my clients can find the data, how much.
But you know why they have the
than me.
data in the first place? They only have the data in the first place because some 75-year, 80-year-old person who didn't understand live feed IDX sold that data without an end date. The Zillow's
well, and here's what's interesting is that all of this is accurate. Here's what's interesting though. What am I going to do about it?
Exactly.
So what
Gotta
I know
get down and dirty.
Here's what I know to be true. Whoever adds more value wins. So if I know how to do creative, if I can list it on the open market, if I can stage your property for free, if I can lend you money if you need it, if I can do all of these things, I'm going to win. I will get my unfair share of the business. Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
And I agree with you totally. And I love the fact that they came with 3 different options, right? You say he comes with 3 different options because I can list it and I could probably outsell selling it for cash because I do know my value and can convince them I could get top dollar quickest. But the thing that intrigued me is that you said he brought an offer like an open door 1% listing. Now I hate open door for multiple reasons. I've tried to get into their properties with a cash buyer and you can't even get in. They're god awful.
Sure,
but
sure.
Is he aligned with open door, but then also with the broker with MLS? Like, how would he bring an open door up?
Well, open door, they just have a program that if you bring them like a cash offer, they'll compensate you. So it's not like you have like any agent.
Our brokerage does too.
And EXP does the same thing. So but again, it's just part of the repertoire. So how many of us have been on a call with somebody who says, I just want a cash offer? And then you say, I can get you more money in the open market. And they say, I don't care. Yeah.
Not that
and
many.
You say, hey, and you say, Chris, no, but really, I could get you more money. And they say, I don't care. And we try to do this whole rigmarole to try to get them to list it. Well, instead of that, just listen to them. So you're like, okay, so if you had a cash offer, like I'm curious because your time is valuable, my time is valuable. I really wouldn't want to waste any of it. Just so I'm clear, like what were you thinking? Here's what we found. Somebody who's really interested in the cash offer, Lisa, they know their number. They'll tell you, I want $500,000 for the home. They'll tell you. People that really want retail, they just want a cash offer, but it's retail. They'll be like, they'll hem and haw. Yeah. So you have to. I did a video with Jose where we break down like that pre-qualification conversation to determine if somebody actually wants a cash offer or not. Yeah. Now, another example is Jose knows in his market in Oxnard, California, if somebody wants $500,000 for a house, I don't care where it is, he's buying it. So he was on a call with somebody and they're like $500,000. He's like, great. So if I see you today and I bring a contract, he also, you know what he does, Bridget? 2-page agreements. Do you know why? If it's a longer page, do you know what happens, Narmeen? People read through, they don't trust it. I got to talk to my attorney.
Yep. That the real estate, the CAR documents are so long and gracious because all the attorneys are involved and people don't know you don't have to use the California Association or wherever you are in the nation. You don't, even if you're a realtor, you do not have to use the National Association of Realtor documents or your states. You can use a 2-page document and people feel more comfortable with it because they're super clean. I even have several different copies of those examples. So
yeah, and that's what he did. And he went over there. He was like, yeah, so if we connect today, he's like, I don't know, like I have to, because it's like a negotiation. He's like, I don't know, like I may be able to do that. I have to like look at underwriting and stuff. But if I was able to do that and I met with you today and I brought an agreement, would you be prepared to proceed? Yes. He went in our living room, signed the agreement. He made $70,000 in an assignment fee. Guys, give people what they want.
Also, I learned this from Mark Z back in the day. He said, if you have one listing and that deal falls apart, that's 100% of your income. If you have 10 listings and one falls apart, that's 10% of your income. It doesn't hurt that bad. So if you go into this scenario, right, where if you go in there with your realtor hat and your only option is to list it and you don't get the listing, you potentially lost 100% of your income, right? If you go in there with 4 options and all they need to do is choose one, either way, you're making money.
And by the way, how many agents do any of this stuff? 0. So it'll cause you to stand out and the probability they'll work with you is super high. And by the way, if you match this with media and you position yourself as a guide to help people to solve their problems, they will be like, yeah, you're the person. So it all wraps together. Lisa, did you have your hand up? I want to make sure I get to you.
I did. Thank you. So,
Yeah.
Learn Probate's new construction cash offer program. Was there a 4th that I miss?
Making sure that you're being like razor sharp with your skills.
Skills. I've got that. Okay. Role
Yeah.
play,
Oh,
better. Okay.
Yeah. So skills. Oh, better tools. If you're going to make outbound calls, making sure that you have better tools where you can get like, multiple, like 30, 40 contacts an hour.
Okay. So that's where you said that Enzo dollar.
Yeah. And what I'll do, I thought I had it here. Like I will, I'll find it in my phone. I'll email it to myself and I'll drop it in the chat.
And who the heck is Jose? And tell me where you're getting all this conversation about Jose. I am so lost in that area.
Okay. Jose is my business partner with EXP. He's my sponsor. I've coached him since he's 26. He's 37 today. He'll do 2 million in volume this year. He owns 57 doors at 37 years old. Like he's kind of got it going on. You know what I mean?
I just wanted to look for him somewhere. And I was like,
if you go to my YouTube channel, if you go to YouTube, he's in my content. It's just Aaron Novello on YouTube.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Any other questions, comments, concerns, observations, hallucinations?
I would like to know your response to I came from the wholesale community and got my license for this exact reason. And
Good.
the big thing that we're hearing within the wholesale community is that it's becoming illegal in a bunch of states. What's your response to that?
Yeah, so I think that it is interesting to me that it's not like regulated in any way. You don't require any licensure to do it. So I think that as time progresses, with a high degree of probability, you'll probably see more of that. I think that as long as you approach this from a kind of white hat perspective, when I was on Pace's wholesale hotline, they were saying to me that he was like, why don't our communities speak to one another? I'm like, well, part of the reason is because you guys talk smack all the time. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, when they see an agent coming, they're like, oh, an agent. I said to him, I'm like, bro, did I show up to this call? Oh, it's a wholesaler. You guys always bombard my emails with crappy offers. Like, we don't do that. It's like, there's no need for that. Do you know what the second reason is, Tony, that we don't talk to each other? Because we have the same avatar. It's a motivated seller. Yeah. So, but I think we can learn from each other. So to answer your question, I think there probably will be more. I think it's good that if there was some regulation, because people are making like insane amounts of money. And some like consumer protection or something, or you have to maybe have a license to do it. But I do think that those two communities can learn from each other. So what I told Pace is like, his community can learn from me how to sell because they don't know how to sell, like what to say, how to say it, like how to overcome objections, like that sort of thing. What our community can learn from their community is to be creative and understanding that there's multiple different exits. Like most people don't understand that there's multiple different exits. So yeah. That's a long-winded answer to your question, but hopefully I answered it. Any other questions, comments, concerns, observations, hallucinations?
I talk shit about wholesalers all the time because I'm constantly getting spammed with emails like, oh, come on, LA, ARVs this. And then you're going to bring in all these, buyers. I bring my flippers and it's just a war and it's just nasty. The part of wholesale that's awesome is the one who locks up the contract because you can let everybody else duke it out, right? The other flippers, but you make that money with a quick flip until you can buy and hold. But I'm constantly spammed with wholesale deals.
Yeah. So I think that there's clearly, Tony, a synergy between the two camps. And I think the future is that they merge. And maybe it falls under the umbrella of like, if you have a real estate license, you can wholesale. Like, I don't know. Yes,
So-
ma'am.
Is there any way to find out who's in debt? Since we can find out how much equity they have, right?
Hey, you know what I love about Gogo? She's a shark.
Title.
I love it. Let's go.
I'm thinking
Can I
I
find
can
out
find
that's
out how much equity they have. Can I find out how much debt they have? Because
Yeah,
if
you
I
can. So
can get both numbers, then I know exactly who to call.
yeah, so
Because
another
if
thing
they're
that
high in debt and they have a shit ton of equity, they don't qualify for a HELOC. They don't qualify for a refinance, right? So they can't get that equity out, which means they can't pay off the debt, which means they need to sell the house in order to pay off the debt. That's the only way out of that situation. So if I can find out who's high debt, maybe I'll buy your house, right? I'll find that wholesaler. I'll buy your house. You get to rent it back from me for the next 10 years. You can pay your debt off. I don't know. I'm sure there's a million solutions to that. But
You
So here's
how
what
do I find out if they have debt?
here's what I've become aware is that our kind of resourcefulness in terms of like pulling lists as an industry is very small. Because we pull expireds, for sale by owners, cancels, just sold. Like what wholesalers and investors do, bro, they have like 30 lists that they call. They'll call Liz Pendus. They'll call people that are behind in lien, like in their liens. They'll call people that divorces. They'll call probates. Like they have like just an endless number of sources that they're reaching out to. So there are a few things. One, title companies can pull a list for you of people that are 65 or older and have equity in their home. Look, Jennifer's like, yep, you can do that. Most people don't realize you could do that, but you can.
You can't do that too nowadays. I mean, if you go into just the MLS and saw that they bought it 15 years ago, if they don't have equity in there, chances are slim to none they don't have equity.
Right. So there's companies that, I mean, there's ways. You just have to learn kind of
But the debt portion is what I don't know. Can you run a report? Who in this county
Yes.
has credit score under 560? Who in this county has debt over $50,000? Who in this county
100%.
missed a credit card payment in the last 3 months in a row, right? Like
Yeah.
those things like are giveaways for someone's financial situation. Where would you say that you could pull these reports from the internet?
Tony, I can see you like wanting to. So go ahead and because you came from that world, talk to it.
Yes. List Source has been the most accurate. I don't remember if it's listsource.com, List Source. That's actually how I kind of excelled so quickly when I moved to a whole new state. Was I started pulling lists from List Source and calling people who had higher equity and working with that community. And you can go all the way down to zip code, even if you want. Only in this zip code, and they have to have this much debt, or only in this zip code, they need to be this age, they need to have this type of lien on their property, or you can get real deep into
Shut
it.
the front door. I
Yeah.
love data and I love spreadsheets.
And
I would eat that thing by noon tomorrow.
The best part about it is you only pay for what you want. So you can go into and you can select and say, I only want owner occupied. So it would take out all of the LLC owners. Or sometimes I do only ones that are not owner occupied. And those are the ones my husband call. And so we get really deep into that, and you only pay for what ones come up. And it's like 2 cents per number or whatever. And then the other part of that is you can then plug it into like the RPR to find exactly where those people live. So you can couple it with some of the resources we have as realtors.
Yeah. And I think what's important, guys, is like, okay, so, it's interesting. Like if you notice, this is like popcorn. Our brains are like bing, 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 right? So it's figuring out what's worth stacking time on top of. We have this blueprint. Yeah. And I know things can be like way overwhelming. What I would do is for 2025, pick which lead source you're going to go deep on. Whether it's probates, whether it's you're going to pull lists, like what are you going to do? Because if you overwhelm yourself, do you know what you're going to end up doing? Nothing. So pick something that you're going to master and go deep on and figure it out over time. Now, the interesting part about figuring it out is every time you figure something out, do you know what happens? You make yourself more valuable.
You become the expert.
That's right. So I figured out expires. I figured out probates. I figured out media. Like when you figured out attraction, like when you figure these things out, you make yourself more valuable. So I would just pick one because there's a lot and make the decision like, yo, I'm going to keep at this until I figure it out. I want everybody in this call to realize something. I want to manage expectation. It usually takes 90 to 120 days. You know how many calls I'm on all they have that are like, well, I've been doing this for a month and I haven't gotten a deal yet. I'm like, you're being a baby. Knock it off. It's going to take 90 to 120 days. It's a pipeline, Sherry. You have to put things into the pipeline. Plus, you have to be willing to go from consciously competent, whatever you're good at, to go right down to unconsciously incompetent, Chris. I have to admit that I'm ignorant. I don't know what I'm doing. Ignorant doesn't mean I'm stupid. It just means I don't know what I'm doing. Most of us aren't willing to put ourselves at unconsciously incompetent. It's like a bruise to us, like a bruise to our ego or whatever. But the people that I know at Success Leaves Clues that produce the best outcomes, bro, they don't care where the information comes from, and they're super happy to bring themselves back down to unconsciously incompetent all the time. Like, I don't know this. So here's what I know. Gogo was like, oh, the list, I promise you, within a month, she'll figure that out. And she has no problem hopping on calls and being like, look, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, teach me what I'm doing. Like, how do I do this?
No problem.
When you go, if anybody's ever done something that's like mildly kind of playfully dangerous, like you jump out of an airplane or you go whitewater rafting, the first thing that they tell you is what happens if something goes wrong. And what they tell you is you need to be an active participant in your own rescue. You know what that means? I can't just lay on my back chair and be like, save me. No, you have to help me save you. Yeah. So we live in a time, guys, where access to information, you know, 500 years ago, the only book that people had in their house, if they had a book, was a Bible. If they had a book. All of the information that you ever possibly could want that can make you faster, quicker, more sophisticated, smarter, financial fit, it's virtually all free for a library card. And everybody says to me, well, can you go get me the book, Aaron? No. So, you know, there's no shortage of resources, like Gogo's saying, like be resourceful. And again, you know, I think that this is like a fantastic opportunity to separate yourself from the wannabes. And there's a lot of wannabes, guys. Here's what I could leave you guys with, right? So I know that like a lot of this can be overwhelming. And I know that if we were to survey, everybody's probably dealing with something. The number one most repeated verse in the Bible is don't be afraid. What's interesting is it's repeated 365 times.
Wow.
I find that interesting. The number
One
two
for
most
every day.
one for every day. The number two most repeated verse in the Bible is I am with you. The number three most repeated verse in the Bible is God is good. So, you know, I think what we're doing here is just maneuvering props and players into configurations that please us, you know, from a business perspective. And that's cool. It's a game. I like the game. It's fun. But in the end, just remember it's a game. So if I can help you in any way, like reach out to me. Again, I'm super appreciative of the opportunity to share with you guys. And yeah, like I wish you all the possible success that you can possibly have in, you know, the remainder of the year and through 2025. Closing is a different skill than presenting. What do you think I mean by that? This is a room full of agents, right? You notice the energy in the room is like, oh, fuck, I've been doing that whole time, man. I'm doing this wrong, shit. You know what closing is? You know the analogy I like to give? It's taking off all your clothes and being like, it's what it is. We doing this or not?